My name is Cassidy. I'm 32 years old, and the moment my mother set down her wine glass at Christmas dinner, I knew something was wrong. The smile on her face was too bright, too forced, and my father wouldn't meet my eyes. Then she said it. Those words that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. "Sweetheart, we have wonderful news. We've signed the house over to Brooke and Derek. They're getting married and they need it more than you do." My fork clattered against my plate. Across the table, my younger sister Brooke couldn't quite hide her smirk, and her boyfriend Derek sat there with this slight, satisfied smile playing at the corners of his mouth. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about a house. This was war. Before we dive into what happened next, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. If you've ever felt betrayed by the people you trusted most, hit that like button because you're going to want to hear how this story unfolds. And subscribe because what comes next is going to show you exactly what happens when someone pushes me too far. Now, let me take you back to how I ended up in this nightmare. I bought that house 6 years ago when I was 26 years old, fresh off my first big promotion as a pharmaceutical sales representative. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom Craftsman in a quiet suburb of Chicago, with a front porch I'd dreamed about since I was a kid and a backyard perfect for the garden I planned to plant. I was young, single, building my career, and my credit score wasn't quite where it needed to be for the mortgage I wanted. That's when my parents offered to co-sign. They sat me down in their living room, my father with his reading glasses perched on his nose, my mother patting my hand reassuringly. "It's just to help you qualify for the loan," my father had said. "Once you're more established, we'll take our names off. This is your house, Cassidy. We're just helping you get started." I trusted them completely. Why wouldn't I? They were my parents. I signed the papers with their names alongside mine on the title, never imagining that 6 years later, those signatures would be used as a weapon against me. For 6 years, I paid every single mortgage payment myself. Not once did my parents contribute a dime. Every month, $2,300 came out of my account like clockwork. I never missed a payment, never even paid late. I spent my weekends painting the walls in soft grays and warm creams, renovating the kitchen with subway tile and butcher block counters, landscaping the yard with rose bushes and a small vegetable garden. I poured my heart and my money into that house, turning it from a property into a home. Meanwhile, my younger sister Brooke floated through life the way she always had. Working part-time jobs, shed quit when they got difficult, living with our parents rent-free, always the favorite, always the one who got away with everything. Our family dynamics had always been clear. I was the responsible one, the achiever, the daughter who didn't need much attention because I had everything figured out. Brooke was the baby, the one who needed help, who needed protecting, who needed our parents to smooth her path through life. I told myself I didn't mind. I told myself I was proud to be independent. Then, 8 months ago, Brooke met Derek at her gym. He was 30 years old, charming in that calculated way some men have, with perfect teeth and the kind of confidence that comes from years of practice. He told people he worked in real estate investing, though the details were always vague when anyone asked specifics. My parents fell in love with him immediately. My mother would gush about how polite he was, how he always brought flowers when he visited, how he opened doors and pulled out chairs. My father loved talking business with him, even though I noticed Derek never actually said anything of substance in those conversations. Within 3 months, Brooke and Derek were inseparable. Within 6 months, my parents were calling him the son we never had. I tried to be happy for my sister, I really did, but something about Derek set my teeth on edge. The way he looked at me sometimes when he thought no one was watching, calculating and cold. The way he steered conversations about money and assets a little too smoothly. The way he'd started asking my parents casual questions about their finances, about property values, about investments. That Christmas dinner started normally enough. We gathered around the table in my parents' dining room, the one with the chandelier my mother had inherited from her grandmother. There was prime rib and roasted vegetables, wine that Derek had brought, insisting it was a special vintage. Brooke was wearing a new dress I knew she couldn't afford on her barista salary, and Derek kept his arm around her shoulders possessively. My mother was in her element, fussing over everyone, making sure glasses stayed full and plates stayed loaded. My father carved the roast with ceremony, the way he did every year. It was after the main course, before dessert, when my mother cleared her throat and exchanged a look with my father. "We have an announcement," she said, and I thought maybe they were going to say Brooke and Derek were engaged. I braced myself to smile and congratulate them. Instead, my mother dropped the bomb. "Derek and Brooke are getting married, and they need a house to start their life together. Your father and I have decided to sign your house over to them." I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" My voice came out strangled. My father jumped in, his tone reasonable, like he was explaining something simple to a child. "You're single, Cassidy. You don't need all that space. You can rent an apartment. Derek and Brooke are starting a family, they need a home." Brooke leaned forward, her eyes bright. "Plus, Derek says the house has amazing investment potential. The neighborhood is really up and coming." I turned to look at Derek, and he met my gaze steadily, that slight smile still playing on his lips. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. Head already won. I tried to find my voice, tried to push past the roaring in my ears. "I've paid every single mortgage payment for 6 years. Every single one. You haven't contributed anything." My mother waved her hand dismissively, like I was being dramatic. "We co-signed, sweetheart. That means our names are on the title. Legally, it's as much ours to give as it is yours, and we've decided to give it to your sister." That's when they told me they'd already consulted a lawyer, one of Derek's friends, who confirmed that because their names were on the title and I'd never formalized a sole ownership agreement, they could legally transfer the property to anyone they wanted. They'd already signed the papers 3 days ago. 3 days. They'd made this decision, met with a lawyer, signed legal documents, all without saying a single word to me. I had 30 days to vacate the house I'd bought, the house I'd paid for, the house I'd turned into a home with my own 2 hands. I stood up from the table so fast my chair fell backward. My mother reached for me, but I jerked away. I couldn't breathe in that room, couldn't think, couldn't process what was happening. I grabbed my purse and left, walking out into the December cold without even my coat, leaving behind the dessert I'd brought, leaving behind the carefully wrapped gifts I'd spent weeks choosing, leaving behind any illusion I'd ever had that my family actually loved me. I spent Christmas morning in a fog, sitting in my living room surrounded by the decorations I'd carefully arranged, staring at the walls I'd painted, the floors I'd refinished, the fireplace mantel I'd restored. This was my home. Mine, and they were taking it away. By 10 in the morning, I couldn't stand the silence anymore. I called my Aunt Patricia, my mother's younger sister, the one person in the family I thought might understand. She answered on the 3rd ring, and I could hear the hesitation in her voice immediately. "Cassidy, honey, Merry Christmas." I didn't bother with pleasantries. "Did you know about the house?" There was a long pause. "Your mother mentioned they were helping Brooke and Derek get settled." My stomach dropped. "What exactly did she tell you?" Aunt Patricia sighed, and I could picture her in her kitchen, probably making coffee, trying to decide how much to say. "She said you'd agreed to let them have the house. That you were being generous, helping your sister start her married life. We all thought it was really sweet of you, honestly." The room spun. They'd been planning this for months. Months. They'd been telling the whole family that I was in on it, that I was willingly giving up my house, setting me up so that when I objected, it'd look like the villain who'd gone back on a generous promise. "Aunt Patricia, I never agreed to anything. They told me on Christmas Eve that they'd already signed it over. I found out after it was done." Silence on the other end. Then, quietly, "Oh, Cassidy. Oh, no." I spent the next hour on the phone with her, piecing together the timeline. My parents had started laying the groundwork back in October, casually mentioning to family members that they were thinking about helping Brooke. By November, they were telling people I'd agreed. By December, it was a done deal, and everyone thought I was on board. It was a masterclass in manipulation, in controlling the narrative, in making sure that when the truth came out, no one would believe me. I called my brother Marcus next, hoping for support. He lived in Boston with his wife and 2 kids, far enough away that he didn't get involved in family drama usually. "Hey, Cass, Merry Christmas. The kids loved the gifts you sent." I didn't have it in me to make small talk. "Did you know about Mom and Dad signing my house over to Brooke?" There was a pause. "Yeah, they mentioned it a few weeks ago. I figured you were okay with it since you're always so successful. You can just buy another house, right?" I closed my eyes. "Marcus, I didn't agree to this. They did it without telling me. That's my house. I've paid for it for 6 years." He sounded uncomfortable now. "I mean, their names are on the title though, right? So legally they can do what they want with it. Maybe you should have gotten your own mortgage." The words hit like a slap. My own brother was taking their side. Had already decided I was being unreasonable before even hearing my perspective. "You really think that's fair?" "That's right," he sighed. "I think family is complicated, and you shouldn't make this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Brooke's getting married, starting a family. Can't you just be happy for her?" I hung up without saying goodbye. The isolation was setting in, the realization that my parents had successfully painted me as the selfish daughter who was refusing to help her sister. Over the next few days, I forced myself to look at the situation practically. I pulled out every bank statement from the past 6 years, highlighted every mortgage payment, $2,300, 12 times a year, for 6 years. I'd paid a total of $165,600 in mortgage payments alone, not counting the property taxes. I'd paid the insurance, the maintenance, the improvements. The house had been worth $320,000 when I bought it. It was now worth $580,000 according to the latest assessment. Between the payments I'd made and the appreciation in value, I'd built equity of approximately $340,000. $340,000 that was about to be handed to Derek and Brooke for free. I started researching Derek online, something I should have done months ago. His social media was carefully curated, all professional headshots and inspirational quotes about success and wealth building. But when I dug deeper, searching his name alongside terms like lawsuit and complaint, I started finding things. A failed business venture 3 years ago where investors claimed they'd been misled. A partnership that dissolved acrimoniously, with the former partner accusing Derek of financial impropriety, though the case was settled out of court. References to other business dealings that seemed to evaporate when scrutinized. There was a pattern here, a history of talking big and delivering nothing, of charming his way into opportunities and leaving wreckage behind. And now he had his sights set on my family, on my house, on my $340,000 in equity. The depression hit hard on the third day after Christmas. I couldn't eat, could barely drag myself out of bed. I'd call in sick to work, something I never did, and spend the day walking through my house room by room, touching the walls, remembering every hour I'd spent making this place mine. The kitchen where I'd spent a whole summer weekend tiling the backsplash by hand, watching YouTube videos to learn how. The bathroom where I'd replaced the vanity and installed new fixtures. The bedroom where I'd painted an accent wall in deep teal because it made me happy. The garden where I'd planted herbs and tomatoes and roses, where I'd spent summer evenings reading on the bench I'd assembled myself. Every corner of this house had my fingerprints on it, my sweat, my money, my love. And they were taking it. But underneath the depression, something else was building. Anger. Pure, white-hot rage at the injustice of it, at the betrayal, at the sheer audacity of thinking they could do this to me. I'd spent my whole life being the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who didn't make waves or ask for help, and this was what it got me. By the end of that third day, I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to roll over. I wasn't going to make this easy for them. If they wanted a war, I'd give them one. I reached out to my best friend Jenna, the person I'd known for 15 years, since college. We'd been through everything together, breakups and job losses and family drama. If anyone would understand, would help me figure out what to do, it would be Jenna. We met at our favorite coffee shop, the one near her house in the suburbs. I got there early, ordered her usual vanilla latte along with my black coffee, and sat in our regular corner booth. When she walked in, I felt the first real relief I'd felt in days. Here, finally, was someone on my side. I poured out the whole story, everything about Christmas dinner and the house and Derek's suspicious background. Jenna listened, her expression sympathetic, making all the right noises of shock and outrage. "That's insane, Cass. I can't believe they'd do that to you." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Have you talked to a lawyer yet?" I shook my head. "I don't even know where to start." We spent 2 hours there, Jenna helping me brainstorm, talking about potential attorneys she knew, discussing strategy. By the time we left, I felt like maybe I wasn't completely alone in this fight. 3 days later, I was scrolling through social media during my lunch break at work when I saw it. A photo on Jenna's Instagram, posted just an hour earlier. Jenna, Brooke, and Derek, at some upscale restaurant downtown. Wine glasses raised, all smiles. The caption read, "So glad we're all finally getting closer. Family is everything. Sometimes the best connections come from unexpected places." My hands started shaking. I stared at the photo, trying to make sense of it, trying to find some explanation that didn't involve the betrayal that was screaming at me from the screen. I called Jenna immediately. She answered cheerfully, like nothing was wrong. "Hey, what's up?" My voice was carefully controlled. "I saw your Instagram post. You're having dinner with Brooke and Derek." There was a pause, just a fraction of a second too long. "Oh yeah, I was going to tell you about that." Something in her tone made my stomach clench. "Tell me what, exactly?" Jenna sighed, and I could hear her moving, probably stepping away from wherever she was for privacy. "Brooke reached out to me about 3 weeks ago. She said you were going through something, that the family was worried about you. She wanted to meet up, talk about how to help you." 3 weeks ago, before Christmas, before they'd even told me about the house. "And you didn't think to mention this to me?" I asked. "She asked me not to," Jenna said, and I could hear the defensiveness creeping into her voice. "She said you were being really sensitive about family stuff and she didn't want to upset you more." The manipulation was breathtaking. Brooke had gotten to my best friend before I even knew there was a problem, had poisoned the well, had made sure Jenna would question my version of events. "What else did she tell you?" I demanded. Jenna hesitated. "She said your parents offered you $50,000 to walk away from the house cleanly, and you refused out of spite. That you were holding up their wedding plans because you were jealous." I felt like I'd been punched. "That's a complete lie, Jenna. They never offered me anything, not a dime. I found out on Christmas Eve that they'd already signed the house away. There was no offer, no negotiation, nothing." Silence on the other end. Then, "Cassidy, I don't know what to believe anymore. Brooke showed me texts from your mom saying you'd agreed and then changed your mind. Fabricated texts. They'd thought of everything. And you believed her instead of me? Your best friend of 15 years. Jenna's voice got sharper. "Your sister was really convincing, Cass. And honestly, Derek has been great to talk to about all this. Has been really patient, really understanding." My blood ran cold. "You've been talking to Derek." That's when it all came spilling out. Derek had apparently reached out to Jenna's husband Ryan through some business networking thing. They'd met for drinks. Derek had pitched Ryan on some investment opportunity. Jenna had met Derek through Ryan, had been charmed just like everyone else. By the time Brooke contacted her, Jenna was already halfway into Derek's orbit. And now Jenna was protecting that connection, protecting her husband's potential business deal, choosing money over 15 years of friendship. "I think you need to consider that maybe you're overreacting," Jenna said. And I could hear that she actually believed it. "Family is complicated. Maybe you should just take the money and let them have the house. It's not worth destroying your relationships over." I hung up without another word. I sat in my car in the work parking lot and cried until I couldn't breathe, until my throat was raw and my eyes were swollen. My family had turned on me. My best friend had turned on me. I was utterly, completely alone. That night, I sat in my house surrounded by boxes. Id started packing, looking at the folder of mortgage payment receipts it accumulated over 6 years. Every single payment had my name on it, my bank account number, my signature. This house wasn't just a property. It was proof that I could take care of myself, that I could build something, that I mattered. I thought about just walking away, letting them have it, starting over somewhere else where no one knew me, and I wouldn't have to face the betrayal every day. I even looked at apartments online, imagining a smaller life, a quieter life, a life where I didn't fight back. But then I saw it, buried in the folder. An email from my father from 6 years ago, sent the day we signed the mortgage papers. The subject line was "Your new home," and the message was short. "Cassidy, I'm so proud of you. This is your house. Mom and I are just helping you qualify for the loan. Once you're established, we'll take our names off. You've worked so hard for this. Love, Dad." I read it 3 times, feeling the anger build with each word. Head put it in writing. They'd promised, and they'd broken that promise like it meant nothing, like I meant nothing. I wasn't going to walk away. I was going to fight, and I was going to win. The next morning, I showed up to work early and went straight to Gloria's office. Gloria was 58 years old, a senior director at our pharmaceutical company, and the toughest woman I'd ever met. She'd mentored me since I started 7 years ago, taught me how to negotiate, how to stand my ground in a male-dominated industry, how to recognize when someone was trying to take advantage of me. If anyone would have practical advice, it would be Gloria. I knocked on her door at 7:30 in the morning. She looked up from her computer, took one look at my face, and said, "Close the door and sit down." I told her everything. Gloria didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes, just listened with the focused intensity she brought to everything. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair and steepled her fingers. "First thing you need to do is document everything. Every conversation, every text message, every email, screenshots, printouts, recordings if you're in a one-party consent state, which Illinois is. Build a file that's absolutely airtight." I nodded, pulling out my phone to take notes. "Second, you need a lawyer. And not just any lawyer. You need someone who specializes in property fraud and family law. I know someone." Gloria pulled up her contacts and wrote down a name and number on her notepad, tearing off the sheet and handing it to me. "Harrison Fletcher. Has the best real estate attorney I know. Handled my sister's case when her ex-husband tried to steal their business. Tell him I sent you. He owes me a favor." I looked down at the name, feeling the first real spark of hope. "Third," Gloria continued, her voice hard, "don't let them see you're fighting back. Let them think you're defeated, that you're going along with it. The element of surprise is going to be your biggest advantage." I met her eyes. "Have you ever been through something like this? With family?" Gloria's expression softened just slightly. "My brother stole $60,000 from my mother's account when she had dementia, convinced her to sign over power of attorney and drained her savings. I had to take him to court to get it back." She leaned forward. "Family who betrays you doesn't get special treatment just because you share DNA. You fight, and you fight dirty if you have to. Understand." I understood. I called Harrison Fletcher from my car during lunch break. His assistant put me through immediately when I mentioned Gloria's name. Harrison had a deep, measured voice that radiated competence. "Gloria says you're dealing with some property issues." I gave him the condensed version. He listened without interrupting, then said, "Can you come to my office at 5 today? Bring every document you have related to the house. Every payment record, every email, every text message." His office was in a sleek downtown building, all glass and steel. Harrison himself was 45, silver-haired, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. We spent 2 hours going through my documents. He made notes, asked pointed questions, built a timeline of events. Finally, he sat back and gave me the honest assessment. "Legally, your parents can transfer property they own. Their names are on the title, so technically, they're within their rights." My heart sank. "But," He continued, holding up a hand. If we can prove fraud, undue influence, or that you had an explicit agreement that the house was yours and they were merely facilitating the purchase, we have grounds to challenge the transfer. He tapped the printout of my father's email. This is good. This establishes that they understood and agreed this was your property. Do you have anything else like this? Texts, voicemails, witnesses to conversations. I thought hard. My ex-boyfriend, Nolan. We dated for 3 years, broke up about 5 years ago but stayed friendly. He was around my family a lot during the purchase. He heard my parents talk about it being my house multiple times. Harrison made a note. I'll need to talk to him. Anyone else? I shook my head. Then we start building the case. I'll file a legal challenge to the property transfer, arguing fraud and breach of oral contract. Well, request a temporary injunction to stop the transfer from being finalized. Your parents will have to respond, and this will likely end up in court. He looked at me seriously. This is going to get ugly. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Christmas dinner, about Jenna's betrayal, about sleeping in an apartment while Derek and Brooke lived in my house. I'm prepared. 2 days later, Derek showed up at my workplace. I was walking to my car at the end of the day when he stepped out from behind a pillar in the parking garage. My heart jumped into my throat, but I kept my expression neutral. Derek, this is private property. You need to leave. He smiled that calculated smile. I just wanted to talk to you, Cassidy. Clear the air. I kept my keys in my hand, positioned between my fingers the way I'd learned in a self-defense class. There's nothing to clear. Stay away from me. His smile faded. I heard you hired a lawyer. That's a mistake. The threat in his voice was unmistakable. If you fight this, I'll make sure you regret it. I know people, Cassidy. I can make your life very difficult. I pulled out my phone and started recording. You're threatening me? On camera? You really are as stupid as I thought. Derek's face darkened. You think you're so smart, so successful. But you're going to lose. That house is ours, and there's nothing you can do about it. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Well, see about that. Now get off my workplace property before I call security. I turned and walked to my car, forcing myself not to run, not to show fear. Once I was inside with the doors locked, I forwarded the video to Harrison and filed a police report for harassment. Derek was escalating, getting sloppy. Good. The next day, Harrison filed the legal challenge. The temporary injunction was granted, halting the property transfer until the case could be heard. My parents would have to respond in court, would have to defend their actions publicly. The war had officially begun. My mother called at 6 in the morning the day after the injunction was served. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. And again. On the 4th call, I answered. She was screaming before I could even say hello. How dare you? How dare you sue your own parents? After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. I kept my voice calm, even though my hands were shaking. You stole my house, Mom. What did you expect me to do? She sputtered, incoherent with rage. We didn't steal anything. We gave it to your sister because she needs it and you don't. You're being selfish and spiteful, and I will never forgive you for this. The line went dead. 10 minutes later, my father sent an email. Unlike my mother's emotional outburst, his message was cold and calculated. Cassidy, your mother and I are deeply disappointed in your decision to pursue legal action against your family. We raised you better than this. Effective immediately, you are no longer welcome in our home. Do not contact us again until you've dropped this frivolous lawsuit and apologized to your sister and her fiancé for the distress you've caused them. I read the email 3 times, each time feeling more numb. They'd disowned me, officially cut me off, and they'd done it by email, too cowardly to even say it to my face. But that was just the opening salvo. That afternoon, my mother posted on Facebook. Her privacy settings were set to public, which meant everyone could see it, could share it, could comment on it. The post was long and detailed, painting a picture of a generous, loving mother being attacked by her ungrateful daughter. It breaks my heart to share this publicly, but I need the support of my friends and family right now. Our eldest daughter is suing us because we tried to help her younger sister. We co-signed on a house for her years ago, and now that her sister is getting married and needs a place to live, we asked if she would be willing to let them have it since she's successful and can afford to buy her own place. She agreed, we made the arrangements, and now she's changed her mind and hired a lawyer to try to take the house back. We're being dragged through court by our own child. Please keep us in your prayers during this difficult time. The comments started rolling in within minutes. Distant relatives I barely knew, family, friends, people from my parents' church. I'm so sorry you're going through this. How ungrateful can one person be? Praying for your family, especially for your daughter to see the error of her ways. This generation is so selfish. They don't understand family values anymore. One of my cousins, someone I'd played with as a kid, commented, I always knew Cassidy thought she was better than everyone else. This doesn't surprise me at all. The post was shared 43 times in the first 2 hours. My phone started buzzing with messages from extended family members. Most didn't even ask for my side of the story. They just told me I should be ashamed of myself, that I was tearing the family apart, that I should drop the lawsuit and make peace. My grandmother, my father's mother, who was 87 years old, called me crying. How could you do this to your parents, Cassidy? They've given you everything. This is breaking your grandfather's heart. My grandfather had been dead for 5 years. She was so confused by whatever they'd told her that she didn't even remember. Then Brooke escalated. She created a series of fake text message screenshots using one of those generator websites. The screenshots showed a conversation supposedly between her and me, where I agreed to give them the house, talked about how happy I was for her, said I didn't need that much space anyway. Then a later conversation where I supposedly said I'd changed my mind because I was jealous of her relationship with Derek. The screenshots were good, convincing if you didn't look too closely. She posted them in the family group chat with a tearful message. I don't understand why Cassidy is lying about this. She agreed to help us. We were so grateful. Now she's trying to ruin my wedding, ruin my life. I'm pregnant and stressed, and this is so bad for the baby. Pregnant. Of course she was pregnant. The timing was almost too perfect. Several family members responded immediately. Oh, honey, don't stress. It's bad for the baby. Cassidy, how can you do this to your pregnant sister? This is absolutely shameful. I tried to respond, to point out that the screenshots were fake, that I'd never had those conversations. But I'd already been painted as the liar. No one believed me. Christmas cards started arriving in my mailbox, even though it was only mid-January. They were addressed to Brooke and Derek's new home at my address. Inside were cheerful notes about how excited people were to see the house once they were settled, how generous it was of me to give it to them. Each card felt like a knife twisting in my gut. My parents were so confident they'd win that they were already celebrating. At work, I started getting weird looks from colleagues. Someone had clearly been talking, sharing the family drama. One of the junior sales reps asked me in the break room if it was true I was suing my family over a house. The judgment in her voice was clear. I realized Derek had probably been spreading the story, his version, of course, making me look like the villain. I was being isolated from every direction. Family, friends, even casual acquaintances were hearing one-sided stories that made me sound like a monster. New Year's Eve, I was completely alone. Everyone I knew was with family or at parties. I sat in my house, the house I was fighting for, surrounded by half-packed boxes, drinking cheap wine straight from the bottle. I'd hit rock bottom. The doorbell rang at 9 p.m., startling me. I wasn't expecting anyone, hadn't ordered food. I looked through the peephole and saw Nolan standing there, holding a bag of Chinese takeout and a bottle of decent wine. I opened the door, confused. Nolan? What are you doing here? He gave me a gentle smile. I heard through the grapevine what's been happening. Thought you might not want to be alone tonight. I burst into tears right there in the doorway. He came in, set down the food, and just held me while I sobbed into his shoulder. Wed dated for 3 years. Broken up 5 years ago when he took a job in Seattle and I wasn't ready to leave Chicago. Wed stayed friendly, occasional texts and emails, but we hadn't seen each other in person in over a year. How did you know? I asked when I could finally speak. He settled onto my couch, started unpacking the Chinese food. Your cousin Wade mentioned it on Facebook. I still follow some of your family. I started reading the posts and something didn't add up. Your parents claiming you agreed and changed your mind? That's not the Cassidy I know. You're the most straightforward person I've ever met. We talked for hours. I told him everything, showed him the documents, the emails, the fake screenshots Brooke had created. Nolan listened carefully, his expression growing darker as the story unfolded. I remember when you bought this house, he said. I was there the day your parents co-signed. Your dad specifically said, "This is Cassidy's house. We're just helping her qualify." I heard him say it. My heart jumped. You'd testify to that? In court, he nodded. Absolutely. This is wrong, Cass. What they're doing is theft, plain and simple. Having someone believe me, someone who knew my family, and still took my side, felt like oxygen after drowning. We spent New Year's Eve eating Chinese food and making a battle plan. Nolan worked in finance now, had connections, knew how to research people and businesses. Let me dig into this Derek character, he said. If he's as shady as you think, there'll be a paper trail. Within 3 days, Nolan had compiled a comprehensive background check on Derek. It was worse than it imagined. Derek had over $180,000 in credit card debt spread across multiple cards. Had taken out business loans for ventures that no longer existed. There were judgments against him from former partners. Had filed for bankruptcy 7 years ago. This man was drowning in debt, and my house, with its $340,000 in equity, was his life raft. Nolan put together a professional dossier and sent it to Harrison. My lawyer called me an hour after receiving it. This changes things. We can argue that Derek manipulated your parents specifically to access your property equity to pay off his debts. This isn't just a family dispute anymore. This is potential fraud. Harrison filed an updated motion with the court, incorporating all the new evidence. The emails from my parents promising the house was mine. Nolan's witness statement about conversations Head heard. The detailed financial background on Derek showing his desperate need for money. The argument was clear. Derek had identified my family as a target, charmed my parents, manipulated them into believing Brooke needed the house, all so he could get his hands on my equity to pay off his massive debts. The court scheduled a hearing for February 15th. We had 6 weeks to prepare. My parents would have to respond to these allegations publicly, in court, under oath. For the first time since Christmas, I felt like I might actually win this. But Derek wasn't going to go down without a fight. The first sign was my car. I came out to the parking lot at work one morning to find all 4 tires slashed. Security footage from the cameras supposedly wasn't available, the angles were wrong, the recording had glitched, but I knew it was Derek or someone Head hired. I filed a police report, knowing nothing would come of it, but creating a paper trail. I had new tires put on and installed a dash cam. The next attack was more direct. I started receiving text messages from unknown numbers. Drop the lawsuit or you'll regret it. Accidents happen to people who don't know when to quit. Your sister deserves happiness. Stop being a selfish bitch. I screenshot every single message and forwarded them to Harrison and the police. The police said, without being able to trace the numbers to a specific person, there wasn't much they could do. I changed my number, but within a week, the messages found the new number too. I installed a security system in my house, cameras covering every entrance. I varied my route to work. I told my boss what was happening so the company could increase security. I was living in a state of constant vigilance, always looking over my shoulder. Then my parents called. Not to threaten, not to yell. They were using a different tactic. My mother's voice was syrupy, sweet, fake concern dripping from every word. Cassidy, honey, we need to talk. Brooke is pregnant. She's due in August. They need a stable home for the baby. Surely you can understand that. Don't you want to be an aunt? Don't you want your niece or nephew to have a good home? I gripped the phone tightly. They can buy their own house. With their own money. Like normal people. My father's voice came on the line, stern and paternal. Now you're being deliberately difficult. Derek has some temporary cash flow issues, but his business is about to take off. They just need a little help getting started. You're established, successful. You can afford to buy another house. Why are you being so selfish about this? The audacity was breathtaking. They were framing my refusal to hand over $340,000 in equity as selfishness. They were using Brooke's pregnancy as emotional blackmail. How can you do this to your future niece or nephew? My mother asked, her voice breaking dramatically. What kind of aunt puts her own greed ahead of a baby's welfare? I wanted to scream at them, to list every way they'd failed me, every betrayal, every lie. Instead, I kept my voice level. This baby has nothing to do with my house. Brooke and Derek need to figure out their own housing situation. I'm not giving up my home. My father's voice hardened. Then you're choosing to destroy this family. That baby will grow up knowing their aunt cared more about a house than about them. The manipulation was so blatant, so calculated. They'd probably gotten the idea from Derek, who was clearly a master at this kind of psychological warfare. I almost crumbled. The weight of being painted as the person who'd harm a baby, who'd deprive my niece or nephew of a home, was crushing. Society has very specific ideas about how women should behave, especially around family and children. I was supposed to be selfless, supposed to sacrifice, supposed to put family first. Fighting back made me the villain in a story everyone had already decided on. I called Gloria in tears. She listened to me vent, then said something I needed to hear. Don't fall for it. Your rights don't disappear because she's pregnant. And that baby deserves parents who can stand on their own 2 feet, not parents who steal from family to support themselves. You're not harming a child. You're refusing to enable theft. Those words steadied me. I wasn't the villain. I was protecting what was mine, and there was nothing wrong with that. 2 weeks before the court hearing, I received a Facebook message from someone named Adrian. Hi Cassidy. You don't know me, but I know Derek. I saw some of the family drama through mutual connections. I think we need to talk. Can we meet in person? I have information you need. I was immediately suspicious. This could be another trap. Another way for Derek to get to me. But I showed the message to Harrison, who advised me to meet her in a public place with someone else present. Nolan agreed to come with me. We met Adrian at a Starbucks on a Saturday afternoon. She was 29, dark-haired, nervous. She brought a manila folder stuffed with papers. I'm Derek's ex-girlfriend from 2 years ago, she said, getting straight to the point. We dated for 18 months. He did to my family exactly what he's doing to yours. She opened the folder and started laying out documents. Derek charmed my parents. My dad owns a small construction business. Derek convinced my dad to make him a partner, said he had connections that would bring in major contracts. My parents invested $75,000 and signed paperwork making him part owner. Adriana's hands shook slightly as she sorted through the papers. Within 6 months, Derek was trying to force my dad out of his own business. Head structured the partnership agreement so that he could push for a buyout. When my dad refused, Derek threatened to sue, to tie the business up in court until it collapsed. I felt sick. What happened? Adrian met my eyes. We hired a lawyer. We found out Derek had done this before, to at least 2 other families. He targets women from stable families, gets close to the parents, identifies assets he can access. It's a pattern. We ended up settling out of court. My parents paid him $30,000 just to go away and sign away his partnership rights. We lost a total of $75,000 because of him. She slid the folder across to me. This is everything. Court documents from our lawsuit. Emails where Derek discussed his plans to take over the business. Financial records showing his debts even back then. I saw your family's situation and I recognized the pattern immediately. I can't let him do this to someone else. I looked through the documents, my hands trembling. This was it. This was the proof that Derek was a con artist, that he had a history of targeting families, that this wasn't just a family dispute but a calculated scheme. "Will you testify?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes. I want him stopped. I want people to know what he is." Harrison nearly danced when I showed him the documents. "This is gold. This establishes a clear pattern of behavior. We can show the court that Derek specifically targeted your family to access your home equity. This isn't just about property law anymore. This is fraud." We scheduled an emergency meeting with Nolan, Gloria, Adrian, and Harrison to plan our strategy. We'd expose Derek's entire history in court. We'd show that Head manipulated my parents, lied to Brooke, orchestrated this entire scheme to steal my equity to pay off his debts. But Derek must have found out about Adrian, because 2 days later, he went nuclear. He posted on social media a long rant about how I was harassing his ex-girlfriend, trying to dig up dirt, obsessed with destroying his relationship with Brooke. He painted me as unhinged, dangerous, stalking his past relationships because I was jealous. Brooke posted a tearful video, 8 minutes long, talking about how scared she was of me, how I'd always been jealous of her, how I was trying to ruin her wedding and endanger her pregnancy out of spite. The video went viral in our local community, got 15,000 views in 2 days. Comments poured in, almost all supporting Brooke, condemning me. The next day at work, my boss called me into her office. She looked uncomfortable. "Cassidy, I need to ask you about something. One of our major clients saw a video about you online. They're concerned about the company's reputation being associated with family drama. They're threatening to pull their account unless we address it." I felt my career crumbling in real time. "It's all lies," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "My family is manipulating the story. I'm the victim here, not the villain." My boss looked genuinely sorry. "I believe you, but perception matters in business. I need you to keep your personal life separate from work. No more drama that could affect our clients." I'd lost a major account. My professional reputation was being damaged. Derek had successfully attacked every aspect of my life: my home, my family, my friendships, and now my career. That night, I sat in my empty house, with a suitcase open on my bed. I'd started packing, seriously considering just leaving, quitting my job, moving to a different state, starting completely over somewhere no one knew me or my family. It would be so easy to just disappear, to let them have the house, to walk away from all of this. I looked at myself in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. I looked defeated, exhausted, broken. This wasn't who I was. Before all this, I was strong, confident, successful. I'd built a career, bought a house, made a life for myself. And I'd let them reduce me to this cowering, scared version of myself. I unpacked the suitcase. I called Harrison. "I want to go nuclear," I said. "I want to expose everything in court. Every lie, every manipulation, every piece of evidence we have. I want Derek destroyed." Harrison was quiet for a moment, then said, "Then that's what we'll do. Get ready. This is going to be war." February 15th arrived cold and gray, the kind of Chicago winter day where the sky seems to press down on you. I dressed carefully in a navy suit, professional and serious, the armor I wore for important client meetings. Harrison met me outside the courthouse at 8:30. Nolan came too, for moral support, even though he'd be testifying later. Gloria had texted me that morning. "Go get them. You've got this." Inside the courtroom, my parents sat on the other side with their lawyer, a sharp-faced man in his 60s named Martin Crawford. Brooke was there, visibly pregnant in a soft pink dress clearly chosen to maximize sympathy. Derek sat beside her in an expensive suit he definitely couldn't afford, his expression confident bordering on smug. They thought they'd already won. The judge, a woman in her 50s named Patricia Morrison, called the court to order. This was a hearing, not a full trial, but it would determine whether the property transfer would stand or be voided. Harrison stood to present our case. He was calm, methodical, building the argument piece by piece. He started with the emails from my parents, projected on a screen for the whole courtroom to see. Your Honor, this email from the defendant, Richard Thompson, clearly states, "This is your house, Cassidy. We're just helping you qualify for the loan." This establishes that the plaintiff's parents understood and agreed that the property belonged to Miss Thompson, and their role was merely facilitative. He moved through the bank statements next, showing 6 years of payments, every single one from my account. The plaintiff has made 100% of the mortgage payments, totaling $165,600. The defendants have contributed $0. Despite this, they transferred the property valued at $580,000 to the plaintiff's sister and her fiancé without compensation to Miss Thompson. The numbers were stark on the screen, undeniable. Then Nolan was called to testify. He was sworn in, and Harrison asked him about his relationship with me and whether he'd been present during discussions about the house. Yes, I was present when Cassidy bought the house. I was her boyfriend at the time. Her father specifically told her, in my presence, "This is Cassidy's house. We're just co-signing to help you qualify." I heard him say those exact words. My parents' lawyer objected, arguing hearsay, but the judge allowed it as witness testimony to oral agreements. My parents looked uncomfortable now, shifting in their seats. They'd thought this would be a simple matter of legal ownership, hadn't expected their own words to be used against them. Harrison continued building the case, introducing the property assessment showing the equity it'd built, the improvements it'd made and paid for, all documented with receipts and contractor invoices. Then came the bombshell. Harrison called Adrian as a witness. Crawford objected immediately. "This person has no relevance to this property dispute." Harrison faced the judge. "Your Honor, this witness will establish a pattern of behavior by Derek Morrison that directly relates to his motivation in this case. Her testimony goes to the heart of whether this transfer was procured through fraud and undue influence." Judge Morrison considered, then nodded. "I'll allow it. Proceed." Adrian was sworn in. She looked nervous but determined. Harrison asked her to describe her relationship with Derek. "I dated Derek Morrison for 18 months, from January 2021 to June 2022. She explained the whole story. How Derek had charmed her parents, convinced them to make him a partner in their business, then tried to force them out. She presented the court documents from their lawsuit, the settlement agreement, the financial records. Derek couldn't stay quiet. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly. "This is ridiculous. She's lying. Your Honor, this is character assassination. It's not relevant to this case." Judge Morrison's voice was sharp. "Mr. Morrison, you are not a party to these proceedings, and you will sit down and be silent, or I will have you removed from this courtroom." Derek's lawyer looked shocked, clearly hadn't expected this. Derek sat down slowly, his face red, jaw clenched. But the damage was done. The outburst had made him look unstable, defensive. Adrian continued her testimony, describing how Derek had hidden massive debts from her, how he'd systematically targeted her family's assets, how the pattern matched exactly what was happening with my family. Harrison introduced Derek's current financial records, obtained through legal discovery, $183,000 in credit card debt, failed business loans, judgments against him. The man was financially desperate, and my house was his solution. Judge Morrison called a 15-minute recess. In the hallway, I watched my parents huddle with their lawyer. They looked shaken, confused. Brooke was crying, clinging to Derek's arm. Derek was on his phone, pacing, agitated. My mother approached me tentatively. Her eyes were red. "Cassidy, we didn't know. We had no idea about any of this. Derek told us. He said you'd agreed to give them the house. He said you were just being difficult about the paperwork, that you wanted attention." My father stood behind her, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "He told us you'd come around, that you were playing games. We believed him when he said you were fine with it." The realization that they'd been manipulated too should have made me feel sympathy, but I just felt angry. "You should have asked me directly," I said, my voice cold. "You should have trusted your own daughter instead of a man you'd known for 8 months. You should have believed me." Brooke came over, mascara running down her face. He lied to me too, she said, her voice breaking. He never told me about the debts. He said his business was doing great. He said he promised me we were going to have a good life. She looked at me with something like desperation. Cassidy, I didn't know he was using me to get to the house. I thought he loved me. For the first time, I saw my sister not as my enemy, but as another one of Derek's victims. Did you know the screenshots you posted were fake? I asked. She looked down. He made them. He told me you'd said those things but deleted the texts. I believed him. I'm so stupid. Derek saw us talking and strode over. Brooke, come on. We need to talk to the lawyer. Brooke pulled away from him. You lied about the debts. You lied about everything. Derek's mask of charm slipped. Baby, I did this for us. For our future. Your sister doesn't deserve that house. She has plenty of money. We need it. The way he said it, so casually entitled to something that didn't belong to him, made my blood boil. Brooke seemed to really see him for the first time. You manipulated my parents. You turned them against my sister. You made me post those things online. Derek grabbed her arm. I gave you what you wanted. A house, a wedding, a future. Don't throw it away because your sister is making me look bad. Brooke jerked away. Don't touch me. We're done. We were called back into the courtroom. Judge Morrison looked at Derek with barely concealed disdain. Mr. Morrison, I'm going to ask you directly. Did you encourage the defendants to transfer this property to you and Miss Brooke Thompson? Derek's lawyer tried to object, but Derek ignored him, too angry to be strategic. I convinced them to do what they should have done already. Cassidy has always had everything handed to her. She's successful. She doesn't need that house. Brooke deserves it. I deserve it. We're starting a family. That house should be ours. The courtroom went silent. Derek had just admitted on the record, with a court stenographer taking down every word, that he had manipulated my parents into signing over the house, that it was his idea, his plan. His lawyer looked like he wanted to disappear. Judge Morrison's expression was carved from ice. Mr. Morrison, you've just confessed to exercising undue influence over the defendants to procure a property transfer that financially benefited you. Anything else you'd like to add? Derek seemed to realize what he'd done. No, that's not what I meant. But it was too late. After a brief consultation with the lawyers, Judge Morrison delivered her ruling. Based on the evidence presented, I find that the property transfer was procured through fraud, misrepresentation, and undue influence. The transfer is void. The property will remain titled as it was before the attempted transfer. She turned to my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, you will execute a quitclaim deed transferring your interest in the property solely to Cassidy Thompson within 30 days. She looked at Derek. I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for investigation into potential fraud. Id 1. The house was mine. Derek was facing potential criminal charges. But as I looked around the courtroom at my shattered family, I wondered what exactly Id 1. My parents looked devastated. Brooke was sobbing. Derek looked like he wanted to kill someone, probably me. My family was destroyed, and even though it'd been vindicated, even though it'd been right, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like survival. The week after the court ruling was chaos. Brooke moved out of my parents' house, taking only her clothes and personal items, leaving Derek behind. She filed for a restraining order against him, citing his manipulation and controlling behavior. My parents were left reeling, trying to process that the man they'd welcomed into the family, the man they'd trusted enough to sign over their daughter's house, was a con artist. Derek disappeared. Literally vanished. He cleared out his apartment, stopped answering calls, and within 3 days was gone. A week later, the police informed me he'd skipped town. There were warrants for his arrest in 2 other states, and they were actively looking for him. Had done this before, multiple times, leaving destruction in his wake. But Derek had one last act of revenge. I came home from work on a Tuesday evening to find my front door ajar. My stomach dropped. I called the police from my car and waited for them to arrive and clear the house. When they gave me the all clear to go inside, I saw the damage. Spray paint covered the living room walls in obscene red letters. "Enjoy your victory, bitch." The kitchen cabinets had been ripped off the hinges. The bathroom fixtures were smashed. My bedroom had been ransacked, my mattress slashed, my clothes torn from the closet and shredded. In the middle of the bedroom floor was a note written in the same red spray paint on a piece of plywood. "You've destroyed a family. Hope you're happy." The vandalism was estimated at $30,000 in damage, but I had security cameras now, and they'd caught everything. Derek breaking in, spending over an hour systematically destroying my home, his face clearly visible on camera. The police issued a warrant for his arrest. He was wanted for vandalism, breaking and entering, and the fraud charges from the court case. The local news picked up the story. Con artist wanted after targeting local family. My vindication was public. The news reports detailed Derek's history, the other family's heads scammed, the pattern of manipulation. Suddenly, family members who'd shunned me were reaching out, apologizing, saying they hadn't known the truth. Cousins who'd blocked me on social media sent friend requests with messages like, "I'm so sorry, we should have listened to you." My Aunt Patricia called crying, apologizing for not defending me sooner. But the damage to those relationships was already done. I'd learned who was willing to believe the worst of me without asking questions, and I wouldn't forget that. Brooke sent me a letter, handwritten on pale blue stationery. "Cassidy, I don't know how to begin to apologize for what I've done. Derek manipulated me from the start. He told me you'd always been jealous of me, that you resented me getting attention from Mom and Dad, that you wanted to ruin my happiness. He isolated me from you deliberately, made me believe lies about you. I was so desperate to be loved, to have someone choose me, that I believed everything he said. I helped him turn our family against you. I posted those fake screenshots. I played the victim when you were the real victim. I'm pregnant and alone and terrified, and I know I have no right to ask for your forgiveness, but am asking anyway. I'm so sorry." I read the letter 3 times. Part of me wanted to forgive her immediately, to rebuild our relationship. But trust, once broken this completely, doesn't come back easily. I wrote back, "I appreciate your apology. I believe Derek manipulated you, but you still chose to believe the worst of me. You still helped destroy my reputation. I need time. Maybe someday we can have a relationship again, but not now." My parents were different. They showed up at my door a week after the vandalism, my father carrying a toolbox, my mother with cleaning supplies. "We want to help fix the damage," my father said. "It's the least we can do." I let them in, and we worked in near silence for hours, patching walls, cleaning up debris. When we stopped for coffee, my father said, "We failed you. We favored Brooke your whole life because she seemed to need more, and we took you for granted because you were so capable. We thought you'd always be fine, so we gave her more attention, more help. We created the situation that made her vulnerable to someone like Derek." My mother was crying quietly. "When he told us you'd agreed to give them the house, we wanted to believe it because it made things easy. We didn't want to deal with conflict, so we chose the story that was simplest. We should have talked to you directly. We should have trusted you. I don't know if you can ever forgive us." I looked at them. These people wa'd given me life, and then betrayed me so completely. "I don't know either," I said honestly. "Trust isn't just given back because you apologize. You have to earn it. Slowly, through consistent actions over time. You have to prove you've changed." My father nodded. "We understand. Well, do whatever it takes." They came back every weekend for a month, helping me repair the house. My father fixed the cabinets, replaced the bathroom fixtures, repaired the damaged doors. My mother helped me repaint the walls, plant new flowers in the garden Derek had destroyed. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. I agreed to go to family therapy with them and Brooke. We had a lot to work through, years of dysfunction and favoritism and poor communication. But they were willing to try, and so was I. Jenna, my former best friend, called 2 weeks after the news story broke. "Cassidy, I saw the news. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Can we talk? I thought about 15 years of friendship, about the person she'd been before Derek had gotten into her head. No, I said simply. You chose to believe a stranger over your best friend of 15 years. You chose a potential business deal for your husband over me. Real friends ask questions. Real friends give the benefit of the doubt. You did neither. She tried to argue, to explain, but I hung up. That friendship was dead, and I felt no desire to resurrect it. At work, things turned around. My boss apologized for doubting me. And when the truth came out about Derek, the client who'd threatened to leave actually increased their account. My company put out a statement supporting me, praising my integrity in a difficult personal situation. I even got promoted 2 months later to senior sales director, a position I'd been working toward for years. Professionally, it not only survived but thrived. The house slowly came back to life. I used the insurance payout to not just repair the damage but upgrade. I renovated better than before, choosing finishes and fixtures that made me happy, that reflected who I was becoming rather than who I'd been. I knocked down a wall between the kitchen and dining room, creating an open concept space filled with light. I built a deck in the backyard and filled it with container gardens. Every room became a testament to my resilience, to my refusal to be broken. In August, Brooke gave birth to a daughter. She named her Cassidy Hope. She called me from the hospital, her voice exhausted but hopeful. Would you like to meet your niece? I went to the hospital, looked at the tiny baby with Brooke's eyes and my grandmother's nose, and felt something shift in my chest. This baby was innocent in all of this. I agreed to be her godmother, to be part of her life. Brooke and I started slowly rebuilding our relationship, meeting for coffee every few weeks, being civil, being careful. It would never be what it was before, but maybe it could be something new. Nolan and I had been spending more time together through all of this. Had proven himself when it mattered, had stood by me when everyone else walked away. By summer, we were officially dating again. In October, he moved into the house with me. Standing in our kitchen one evening, cooking dinner together, laughing about something silly, I realized I was happy. Genuinely happy. The house that had been a battlefield had become a home again. Derek was eventually arrested in Florida under an assumed name. He was extradited back to Illinois, tried, and convicted of fraud and vandalism. Hess serving 3 years in prison. Brooke was granted full custody of baby Cassidy, and Derek signed away his parental rights rather than pay child support he couldn't afford. The baby would grow up without him, which everyone agreed was a blessing. 1 year after that terrible Christmas dinner, I hosted Christmas at my house for the first time. I invited only the people who'd supported me. Gloria, Nolan, Adrian, and a few cousins who'd reached out early to apologize. My parents and Brooke came for a brief visit in the afternoon, bringing baby Cassidy. The relationship was cordial but distant. We were polite, careful, like acquaintances rather than family. But it was better than nothing, and it was honest. We sat in my living room, the one I'd repainted a soft sage green, and made small talk about safe topics. My mother held her granddaughter, and I saw tears in her eyes when she looked at me, but she didn't try to force intimacy I wasn't ready for. They left after an hour, and I felt relieved. Trust was being rebuilt brick by brick, but it was slow work, and I wasn't rushing it. Brooke was working 2 jobs to support her daughter, had moved into a small apartment she could afford on her own. She was in therapy, trying to understand how she'd fallen for Derek's manipulation, working on building her self-esteem so she'd never be vulnerable to someone like that again. You saved me, she told me once over coffee. If you hadn't fought, if you'd just given him the house, I'd be trapped with him right now. He would have controlled everything. You fighting back freed me too, even if I didn't see it at the time. I appreciated the sentiment, but I hadn't fought for her. I'd fought for myself. Maybe that was okay too. My parents had changed their behavior in visible ways. My father helped with repairs around my house without being asked, trying to make amends through action. My mother made an effort to spend time with me one-on-one, not just as Brooke's mother but as mine. They were learning, finally, to treat their daughters equally, to not take me for granted. But I didn't forget. Trust is earned back slowly through consistent action, not words. Derek's fate felt like justice. 3 years in prison wasn't enough for all the damage Head caused, all the families Head hurt, but it was something. Head have a felony record that would follow him forever, making his con artist lifestyle much harder. Adrian and I had become friends through all of this, bonded by our shared experience. We talked about starting a foundation to help victims of financial fraud, to provide resources and legal support for people in situations like ours. Turning our pain into purpose felt meaningful. My healing journey had taught me difficult lessons. Therapy helped me process the betrayal, helped me understand that I wasn't weak for trusting my family. They were wrong for betraying that trust. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean letting people back into your life at the same level. You can forgive someone and still maintain boundaries. You can acknowledge they're trying to change while protecting yourself from being hurt again. I emerged stronger, wiser, more cautious, but not bitter. I chose growth over resentment because resentment would have poisoned me, not them. The house itself became symbolic of everything Id fought for. The kitchen I'd renovated represented resilience, the ability to rebuild after destruction. The living room where Id cried represented vulnerability, the strength it takes to feel pain and keep going. The bedroom where Id made battle plans represented strategy, the importance of fighting smart, not just hard. The garden represented new beginnings, the way beautiful things can grow from scorched earth. It wasn't just property, it was proof that I could survive anything, that I was stronger than I'd known. Looking back, I could identify clear lessons from this nightmare. First, family who betrays you doesn't get automatic forgiveness just because you share blood. Loyalty is earned, not owed. Second, always protect yourself legally, even with people you trust. Get everything in writing, keep your own records, don't assume good intentions will protect you. Third, when people show you who they are, believe them. Derek showed signs of being a con artist from the start, but we all ignored them because we wanted to believe the best. Fourth, your real family is the people who stand with you when everyone else walks away. Gloria, Nolan, Adrian, they became my family when my blood relatives abandoned me. Fifth, and perhaps most important, winning isn't always about getting what you want. Sometimes it's about not letting them take what's yours. Sometimes victory is just survival, just refusing to be destroyed. I sat on my front porch on Christmas evening, Nolan beside me, Gloria's laughter drifting from the kitchen where she was teaching Adrian to make her famous pecan pie. Baby Cassidy Hope was sleeping upstairs in a portable crib, Brooke having left her with me for a few hours while she ran errands, a sign of trust slowly rebuilding. My parents had left earlier, the relationship still healing, still fragile. I'd lost so much in this fight. My innocence, my ability to trust easily, some relationships that would never recover. But I'd gained more. I'd gained clarity about who I really was, what I was capable of surviving. I'd gained real chosen family who'd proven their loyalty. I'd gained self-respect that came from fighting for myself instead of rolling over. A year ago, I sat at a Christmas table and my world exploded. They tried to take everything from me, my home, my dignity, my family, my reputation. I could have given up, part of me desperately wanted to. But I learned something important through all of this. When people try to break you, you have two choices. You can let them, or you can rebuild yourself, stronger than before. I chose strength. I chose to fight. And I won, not just the legal battle, but something more important. I won myself back. I'm planning to propose to Nolan next summer. I'm considering starting my own pharmaceutical consulting business. Adrian and I are seriously planning that foundation for fraud victims. Maybe I'll write a book about this experience, help other people recognize the warning signs of financial manipulation. I want to turn this pain into purpose, to make something meaningful from the wreckage. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, interrupting my thoughts. I opened it to find my cousin Wade standing there, looking uncomfortable and nervous. "Hey, Cassidy," I know this is random, but I heard about what happened last year. The whole thing with Derek and the house. He shifted his weight from foot to foot. I need your help. My brother-in-law is trying to steal my business. He's doing the same kind of thing, manipulating my sister, trying to force me out of the company I built. I don't know what to do. I looked at Wade, saw the desperation and fear I'd felt a year ago reflected in his eyes. I smiled, not with happiness but with recognition. It'd been here before. I knew this fight. Come in, I said, opening the door wider. Let's talk about how to fight back, because that's what I was now. Not just a survivor, but someone who could help others survive. A warrior who'd been through the fire and come out forged stronger. Life isn't fair. Family isn't always loyal. Love doesn't always protect you from harm. But you are stronger than you know, more resilient than you imagine. And your home, the real one, the one you build inside yourself from self-respect and boundaries and hard-won wisdom, that home can never be signed away by anyone. That Christmas taught me the most painful and most valuable lesson of my life. The worst betrayals can lead to the greatest transformations. Sometimes losing everything is how you find yourself. Sometimes the people who try to destroy you end up making you indestructible. I closed the door to my house, locked it with my key, the only name on the deed. I looked around at the life I'd rebuilt from ashes, at the people who'd proven their worth, at the future I was creating on my own terms. I'd won. Not just the house, though that mattered. I'd won something more valuable. I'd won myself back. And no one, not my parents, not my sister, not some con artist with a charming smile, could ever take that away from me again. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to fight your own family for what was rightfully yours? Have you ever been betrayed by the people you trusted most? Drop a comment and share your story. You're not alone in this. Hit that like button if you believe in fighting for yourself, even when everyone tells you to give up. Subscribe because I'll be sharing more stories about standing up to family manipulation and finding your strength when everything falls apart. And share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family, especially with family. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you find your own strength. Remember, you deserve people who choose you, who believe you, who stand with you. And if your family can't be that, then build a new family from the people who can. Happy holidays, and may you never have to fight the battles I fought, but if you do, may you have the courage to win.